Well, hi, John Miller here with the Friday Devotional. And I want to share with you something that the Apostle Peter said that I find intensely interesting, fascinating actually, that he wrote in 1 Peter 1, verse 8. 1 Peter was written in about 63 AD. And so let's say 30 years or so have passed since Jesus was crucified, resurrected, and ascended into heaven. It's been at least, let's say, 30 years since then. And so people have become Christians since then throughout the Roman Empire. And Peter is writing to a group of people who have been dispersed from the Holy Land throughout the Roman Empire, throughout Asia Minor and beyond. And they've been dispersed out there. And Peter writes this epistle, this letter, to these people who are really in harm's way. They're out there, they've found Jesus, and yet they find themselves at the beginning of persecution. We know that in 64 AD, that's when Nero blamed the burning of Rome on the Christians, and it began a huge persecution among believers that didn't stop there. It went on to succeeding Caesars that came into power over the many years that followed. But Nero started it. And so Peter writes 1 Peter in the theme. A lot of that theme has to do with persecution. So anyway, you've got these a large number of brand new believers out there who are living with that tension of the potential of suffering. And he says this in the 8th verse of chapter 1. He says, though you have not seen him. In other words, you haven't seen Jesus. Though you haven't seen him, you love him. And though you do not see him now, obviously it's 30 some odd years later, you believe in him. Now think about that. Peter obviously walked with Jesus. He knew Jesus very well, saw him after the resurrection, saw him ascend into heaven. But believers since then have not seen him. We haven't seen Jesus. So Peter is an eyewitness, but now he sees believers all over the Holy Land and throughout the Roman Empire dedicating their lives, putting their full faith in someone they have never seen. They just believe the words of Peter and Paul and others of that day. And so he says, you haven't seen him, but you love him. And though you don't even see him now, you believe, you placed your whole faith in him. Then he says, and you have joy. You have joy, and inexpressible joy, and full of glory. So I find that so interesting that the many believers that followed, in Peter's epistle and beyond, who had never met Jesus, never saw him face to face, but placed their full faith in him. And that's you and me today. We have put our faith in him. And, I'm reminded of the fact that for those early Christians, Peter says, you have this joy, this inexpressible joy, he says, and it's full of glory. And then I ask myself, John, are you full of joy because of what Jesus Christ has done for you? Is your faith in Jesus so vivid, so real, that he has given you the joy of his gifts, his love, his kindness, his forgiveness, his mercy? And so that's what I wanted to leave with you today, is that question in us who have never seen him. Certainly fascinating for Peter to have seen those who came to faith in Jesus later on and then throughout history. So an interesting thing for us to think about today as we contemplate having faith in the Lord Jesus Christ. Though we have not seen him, we love him. And though we still don't see him throughout our whole life, we believe in him. And I trust that the result of that in our life, emotionally, is incredible appreciation, incredible joy that comes out of that. So there you go. That's the Friday devotional. Hope you enjoyed it. Bye-bye.